invited to come back to Liberec to talk about what I do, the work that I do in Ireland. Okay, obviously this is where I live, and which is Ireland, and the Atlantic Ocean, and my practice is based here, and most of my work is in this small area on the west coast of Ireland, which is called the Burn. So like this area is about 200 kilometers square, and the population is maybe 12,000 people. And that's where I do almost all of my work, and all of my clients come from this particular place. So it's really kind of like the life of a country architect. Before this, just to, for people who don't know, I originally went to school in Dublin, and then after that I spent time studying in the United States and in Japan, and then I worked for 10 years for Isozaki, a Japanese architect, living in Tokyo and New York. And then after that I came back to Ireland to a very different kind of practice based here. So, okay, so what I'm going to talk about is my work, and specifically one thing, which is that I work, but I used to, when I worked before, obviously I'm working on very big projects, and now I live along the coast, and I work on my own, and I've worked on my own for maybe 16 years, and so most of the projects I do are small projects in the countryside. But when I was thinking about making the presentation, I was thinking about these small projects. But every single project is connected to something outside of the project, which is a very large thing. And that's a very, very important thing in all of these projects, because this large thing outside of the project is what grounds the people in the experience of the place that they're actually living here. So in a way, the architecture is like a frame to allow people to live a rich life, but also to be really aware of where they are living in this particular place. So the first example is actually my own house, which overlooks the sea and faces out across the Atlantic Ocean. And you can see the landscape is left wild. And then this is the plan of the house. And it's a very simple, kind of average-sized house in Ireland. Maybe a very simple plan. The basic idea in terms of connection here with the bigger thing is a connection with the sea space. So the sea is out here. And what I did was to make two stone boxes, one here and one here, and those contain service spaces. And in the middle, like in the sea space, is the living space of the house. And it's basically very open to the sea the whole way through the house. But even though it's very open, it's also very important that it's not like a mise en glace box. It has to feel, when you're in this place, you have to feel protected, because the weather is quite sometimes quite extreme, and also you're controlling the light. So it's open to the sea space, but it's also protected. So this is basically the living space. This is actually where I work. Bedrooms, kitchen, all these things. But really it's one simple room, which is connected to the sea. And this is coming through the stone box into the house. And this is the main living space. So the sea is out here. There's a small garden at the back. But the whole space, you're always aware of the room space of the light that's changing around the house, and also you're always very strongly connected to the sea space outside. This is my office. This is like my world headquarters. And this space is covered space, and this is what I call it's like a sky deck that takes you out into the space of the sea. So this is looking out across the Atlantic Ocean. And because we live on the west coast of Ireland, for me it's a very special place for lots of reasons. But one really special reason is the light. Because we're on the Atlantic Ocean, this is always changing. Every 5, 10, 20 minutes this is changing. So the architecture is a way of introducing you to what's outside you all the time. And this second project is also a house. It's near where I live. It's about 10 kilometers along the coast. And it's hidden in behind those trees. This project is for a writer and his wife. So and at this point, the point of this house was, there was a cottage here, and they wanted to build, it's like a weekend house. And when we walked to the site at the beginning, it was extremely, already very beautiful as it was. So the house is really made as deliberately as simple as possible, and a very regular ordered house, so that it would act as a very simple frame to observe the light changing around the house. So the house is built on a very simple grid, just walls of books, openings, walls of books, openings, walls of books, openings, walls of books. As simple as possible. That's right. Sorry with the slides. Yep. Go back. Go back. Go back. try again. That's right. So on the outside of the house is a very, very simple house. And then you come into the house and you come up to the main living room, which is this room. The basic point of this room is the changing light. This is the kitchen. I just look at this film. This is the screen floor which reflects the light. Can I stop in this one? This is, the next project is for a city gallery in Liberec. This was an old building built in 1906. Okay, the main point of this project was to connect the existing building to the park. So onto the square, this is the existing building. This is a new gallery. This is art storage space. This is a cafe meeting space, and this is the entrance to the park. And people all come into the park and come along this path. And before we did the project, the building was like a block of stone. It was completely closed to the public and very uninviting. So we placed these public spaces on the edge of it's the entrance to the park. So people were coming along here. So most of the building, this grey, are actually gallery spaces. And the white are new additions. So for example, in the corner is art storage space. But along by the park entrance, we built these spaces for a workshop space, and also for kids to have art classes. And this space is a meeting space, a cafe space, and exhibition space. And the idea is two things. One is it makes the whole institution more welcoming for people, but also it connects people inside the building to this very beautiful park outside. So this is the main meeting space, which is kind of a cafe space. And this is the gallery space. And this is renovating existing gallery spaces. And this shows the new edge to the park. So this is typical buildings of Liberec. This is the park entrance, and this is the meeting space, cafe space, and this is the workshop space. And that's the workshop for where you can almost see it, where kids weekends come to do art classes in this space here. This is onto the public square with a blank facade, so we just feel a very large seat. And this is the beginning of another project which we're working on now, and this is just give you some idea of Europe at night time. Actually, that's light pollution. So if you look at the map of Europe, it's quite amazing that there's very, very few places where you actually see the night sky. And this shows the effect of that. So, for example, people in all of these countries almost never see any stars. If you have a good sky, you should see 1,500 stars in the sky with your own eye. But for example, Rev Koolhaas and Rotterdam and maybe Zaha did in London, they never see a real star. So this is light pollution in Ireland. And of course that's Dublin, which is where 1/3 of the population lives. And once you come out to the west coast, there's less and less light pollution. This area is now actually a reserve where they protect the night sky. And this is the area where I live. And as you can see, the local astronomy club comes to have parties because the night sky is almost perfect. And this is near where I live. This is a monument that's maybe 5,000 years old. So the project we were working on, and two of the students from the school came last summer to work with me on this project, is a project to build small shelters in the landscape near where I live, where people can spend maybe 1 evening, 2 evenings, 3, 4, 5 evenings in very small shelters, very, very small shelters. But the idea was to give them an experience of the wilderness and also, especially, an experience of the night sky. So we walked in the landscape and we found 3 different locations which were typical topographies. And for each topography, we built a shelter. So the first topography, which is typical of this landscape, is a very open stone landscape. And in that open stone landscape, we find a natural shelter, which is this area here. There's actually a well, so there's water. And we built the first shelter in that space. So all of these shelters are very small, and they're all built of materials that are easily available in the area. So this is the first shelter, and then deep in the ground behind is a place for people to sleep and maybe sometimes to work. And then this is at night time. I don't know if you can see that. And this is looking out to the night sky. And the second typical location we found was we were looking for places where there was already natural shelter to begin with. So this is inside, there's a collection of ruins in the landscape. And we were going to build shelters inside the existing ruins. So this is the shelter using straw construction. This is from your bed at night time. You look up through the roof of the straw bale building to the sky. And the third typical topography was inside these woods which you find in Bern. Like there's the open stone landscape, typical green fields, and then in between the rocks there's very protected valleys. That's where you get some very nice forest, small forest. So this is the third spot. And it's placed in an opening in the forest where the light is already naturally coming down through the middle, and then now the light comes out through the middle of the building. This is the space of the shelter, which is all made of timbers. So when you're in the space, you feel very much part of the forest floor. The light is coming right down through the center of the building onto this table, which is where you can work, where you can sleep. And it's just a very small kitchen, a very small bathroom, somewhere to store. It's really basic living in the forest or in the wilderness. And then this is the last project I'm showing today. It's something I'm doing right now, and in terms of connecting with something, it's a house for a farmer and his wife. This is actually where I live. These are the typical mountains. This is the sea. And there's a lot of it's like a mixture of stone mountains and very lush green landscape. So he wants to build his house here. So really the question for me was, this is the site, is how to connect a very small house to this really beautiful field. And in the past, in prehistory, what they did was to go to these protected mountains in the landscape. There's lots of ruins like this close to the area where we live. So in this case, we make it's like a trench around the site, and the reason for that is to keep his cows graze all of this landscape. And it's a way of keeping the cows out, and then making this area the area that we mark as the landscape. And then that area is divided up with trees and with stone walls to make the house. And then up here is the sea, over here is the sea. So this is a study drawings for the house which we're working on right now. And you can see the stone walls which act as like the framework of the house, and then inside that framework are the living spaces. So like, for example, here's a bedroom, here's the main living space, here's a deck which looks out across to the sea. And this is just the main living space. Okay. And this is my last slide, and this is of my maybe favorite room in Syria, which is not even designed. So that's it. That's finished. Thank you.